Hello, my name is Dr. Brian Cochran. I'm with Biz Up 101, and today we will be going through our course on business startup. Our business startup course. This is class number 3, and today we'll be going through choosing my business name and what type of business structure do I want to choose. And this will be another short course. Next week we will be going through some great things as well. And so let's get into our class for today. Choosing a business name is what we're going to start with today. What do I name my business? And that's not as important as it used to be. It used to be really important in the past because of um, not having the internet, but with the internet, the invention of the internet, corny and cool names have come out because of it. So, ethnic names were pretty dominant. Ethnic is Don, and different certain names that would pigeonhole you has changed. So it's a lot broader than it used to be. So let me say that up front before we get into our class today. Business names are fun to create. I love to sit down and brainstorm ideas for company names. I have also learned a lot about what not to do when choosing a name, a business name. So here are some basic rules to keep you in mind as you choose your name. Also, if you have already decided on a name, you need to look at these rules to make sure your name is clear and easy to understand, because I've found in the past that names have been pretty complex. So I remember, I'll use myself as an example. I have a music division of our company that we put together, and it was funny because I chose the name Musicpreneur, and one of my friends who has been in the music industry over 20 years and has his own independent record label he's actually the number one Chicano rap label in the country. One day we were talking, and he said, "Hey, my people can never find you because they can barely spell music, so how are they going to spell musicpreneur? And so if they can't spell entrepreneur, then how are they going to spell musicpreneur?" So I ended up having, even though it was a clever name and it meant something, I ended up having to change the name so that way people can find me, because it's an online business, and it's a course in teaching people how to start their own music companies and develop their own music companies. And so that was the idea. So musicpreneur was bridging entertainment and entrepreneurship and bringing it together, which is a great concept and a great name, but unfortunately, folks couldn't spell it, so they weren't finding me until I changed the name to I'm Music Boss. So it made it a lot easier for folks to remember, and I wasn't stuck. Actually, at first I was stuck on the name because of the concept, but after having some wise counsel, especially folks in the industry that I was trying to promote and do business in, as they shared with me that the name was not easy to find, that they couldn't spell it, so I ended up having to go and change the name. So just keep that in mind as you choose a name, because it's really important to understand that you want people to find you, especially when, right now, probably one of the fastest way they find you is online using the internet. So as they use the internet, that will, if they can't figure out how to spell it, even if they try to come close, sometimes unless you rate high in Google or in the search engines, whichever user you use in Bing or Yahoo or whatever, that unless you have rated high in the search engines, if they try to figure it out, they won't find it right away anyway. So make it easy. There's a simple saying that I used to say to people, KISS, and it stands for Keep It Simple Stupid. So keep it simple so that way people can find you. All right, so let's get started. Go through these following steps. Number one, is the name easy to pronounce? As I kind of went through musicpreneur, it sounds fun and easy, but it wasn't easy for people to pronounce or find. So I keep that in mind. Again, I'll keep saying it over and over again, so that way you don't get too deep, and keep it simple. Will you have to repeat it several times or many times or every time someone calls your office? And you should do it anyway for branding purposes. But if they don't get the name at first, it's going to be hard for them to remember, because if it's hard to remember, they'll remember the service before they remember the name. But other people probably do the service or the product that you're selling. Someone else probably does it anyway. So if they can't remember your name the next time they're looking for it, for branding purposes, again, keep it simple. Do a name check in your local area to see if anyone is using the name. So that means going through a local DBA. Also, again, because of the internet, you can look it up on the internet. And so one of my little things that I talk about, I forgot, which I didn't put in one of the points, so you should add that at point number 9, or point 1.5, 1A, or 2A, excuse me. is use the internet as an internet search to see if that name is available. If it is available, don't get to .net, .org, .biz, .us, .or, all the other ones that are available. Get .com, because that's the most common one. That was the first one that came out. So most folks are going to look for the .com before they look for the .biz or .org or .net. So do yourself a favor when you're choosing a name, make sure the .com is available. Is a little secret there for you to capitalize on, because I made that first mistake of doing a business. It was a Christian business called gospelworldwide.org, and so I got that .org versus the .com, and so as I was doing the marketing, I found that people were going to the .com first, and they did something similar, so I was promoting for them versus promoting for myself. Even though after a while they saw the .org, but what I ended up doing was going with something shorter, which is gww1.com, so that made it easy for a person to remember. It's real short and concise, and it had the .com to go along with it. So number 2 is do a name check in your local area to see if anyone is using it. Also, the reason being is in order to get a checking account to do business, no one else can have the name. So if if you're doing a local DBA, then you need to go to the county registrar's office, or the county registrar's office of the city that you're in, and do a name search to see if it's available. You can also do it online and so forth. So that way, when you do secure the name, you can also get a checking account and a business license in the name that you're doing business in. So number 3. Check the Secretary of State database as well. That's where for corporations, to see if the name is available, because what you really want to do, which we'll talk about in one of the other classes coming up, is that you want to incorporate. So check on the Secretary of State office as well, because that's the state, and then national is going to be your trademark, which is coming up in a second. So they do a national search to see if anyone's using it. Number 4, complete a national name check with each state and see who is using your name. So that way, you don't want to be. I remember I did one business one time. It's so funny because I did it locally, did a DBA. Come to find out, someone in another state was using it as a pornography business, and so I ended up having to change the name of that business because I didn't want to be. I don't want my business name to be synonymous as I branched out. And this is before the internet was really big as it is now. So be careful of the name and make sure if you're thinking about going global, if you're thinking about doing big business someday, which we should all be thinking about. Well, maybe not. Let me rephrase that. If you're choosing to go on someday, and one, you don't want to get in trouble with copyright infringement or trademark infringement, then you might want to go ahead and do a national search to see what other businesses are out there, to see if someday if some national franchise business has that name, then you may get in trouble later on because all you have is a local DBA. So they can fight because they did, and they'll win because they have the national trademark for the name, and you just have a local one. So you'd have to end up changing the name. So all the money you spend in branding the company, you're going to end up doing it for them. So you might want to also do a national check. You can also do that through. Today's a lot easier as well by using the internet, by doing a national search, by doing the .com. All right, number 5, perform a name search with the Federal Trademark Office as well. Again, because you want to protect your name is your intellectual property. That is your brand. It's going to be synonymous with the product or services that you're going to be offering. So do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. Also, as you build your, you may not have the money to do it up front, but you could do the search, for free to see if someone has a name or not. And if they don't, again, at least do a couple things, which is a poor man's copyright, the trade, to copyright the name by, getting a self-addressed stamped envelope, putting the name inside, and self-addressing it to yourself, and certified mail it to yourself. Second step, which is probably cheaper and better in the long run, is get the .com, so that way it goes to a national registrar, just like the national registrar that reserves the name, and so you lease the name or you repurchase the name every year, excuse me, and so that gives the date, the timestamp, and when you got the name, so that way if you have to go to court, it shows when you got the name, and then the federal trademark would be another way, as well as your corporation. So you want to protect your intellectual property. I remember a movie, Coming to America, and it was a comedy with Eddie Murphy, and I can remember that someone the one of the characters in the movie the father had a restaurant called McDougal's or something like that, and it had the golden arches, and they changed the arches and called it something else. But the funny thing about it is that it had the golden arches, which is trademarked and copyrighted, and they were being sued, but no, I think they were being sued. Anyway, you don't want somebody to bite you to take what you've built as far as your brand and use it for their personal gain. So make sure you do all your intellectual, protect your intellectual property, because your name is the initial part that people are going to recognize and remember before your product or service, in most cases. Number 6, file a trademark on the name and the logo with the state and the federal trademark offices, because again, I've already kind of mentioned why, because you want to protect the image. I use the illustration of the movie, but it happens all the time where McDonald's have, if you notice, just like Nike, first they started off with the name Nike, then they went with the swoosh. They trademarked swoosh, they trademarked the swoosh, which was part of the shoe. And so anything that you try to do resembling that, what they've done is they trademarked it so that way you can't turn around and bite them. So that way they lose money because you're using their name or their image or their likeness or the logo. So make sure you may not be able to afford to right now when you first get your business started, but keep that in mind and hold on to this part of the presentation, like all of them. Download them. Make sure you hold on to them so that way you can go back to future references. So that way you know what to do when it's time for you to expand and start protecting yourself even more. You may start local with the DBA, and that's only local for the county that you're in. It's not even the state. State would be your corporation, and federal would be your trademark. You can do a state trademark and do a national trademark based upon whichever direction that you go into. So I would suggest make sure you do a DBA. Make sure you do a local, at least a corporation, so that way it protects you in the state of California. And then at the same time, get your URL, get your name, website name secured as well, so that way you're branding yourself all at the same time. Number 7, if using a corporation, you will want an ending of your name to include the following: Inc., Incorporated Corporation Corp, or Ltd. And the reason being because, again, one of the cool parts about doing that, when the bankers look at your name, when they see Incorporated or Inc. or whatever, it looks good on. It looks when you stand up next to McDonald's or Jack in the Box or AAA or Samsung or Verizon or whoever, that the only difference is your balance sheet, which is your assets and your assets versus liability. So, but corporations are thought more highly than a DBA anyway. So you might want to incorporate and make sure when you do your trademark, and to add that to it as well, so that way you're protecting it as a corporation versus a local business. All right, more details in this section in the business organization portion of our class, but I don't think we're going to be going into depth with that. But what you can do, I just finished writing a manual. It's called Business Startup 101, and it'll have more details at the end of our lesson that you can pick up the book, which goes into greater detail. All righty, number 8. Check your state for certain words that may not be allowed without specific licenses or approval, such as bank, school, college, insurance, real estate, medical, and trust. Those are the A through G. Those you need specific licenses in order to put those in your name, because they have certain regulations that come along with it, that you got certain associations and certain licenses that you have to have in order to be in that industry. So before you do that, make sure you get the licenses, so that way you protect yourself, so you don't get in trouble in the long haul. All right, let's go back over them real quick. Number 1, make sure the name is easily pronounced. Number 2, do a name check locally in your local area. See if anybody's using it. Number 3, check with your Secretary of State. Number 4, complete a national check. So that way, again, at least the state and then as well as national. Work on a federal trademark eventually. so that way you protect it nationally. Number 6, file a trademark with your name and the logo, so that way you protect your image as well as your name. If you're using a corporation, make sure it has incorporated Inc., Corporation, Corp, or LTD. All right, and number 8, make sure certain words are not allowed based upon needing licensing, special approval, and you see that list there for those approvals, which is bank, school, college, insurance, real estate, medical, and trust. All right, we're going into the next section of our class today, and this section is going over the business model options that you have available to you and the different types of businesses that you're trying to, the business that you're trying to set up. Excuse me, let me get a drink of water real quick. All right. Thanks to technology, there are more business models to choose from than ever before. Today, you can start a part-time or full-time business at home, online, and or a combination of two, brick and mortar, which is a commercial location. And so what we're going to go through in these next couple of minutes is those various things that we're just showing you in this introduction. The key is to choose a business model that fits your life plan. And we'll be going over that next week. I kind of jumped ahead. So next week we're going into life plan. So that way, when you're doing your life plan, based upon what your goals and aspirations for life is going to be the type of business that you're going to go in, the model that you're going to choose to put together in building your business model. This will ensure that you will spend the right number of hours each week in developing your business and business model. Take the right level of risk. Some models involve more risk than others. Are practical in terms of your financial wherewithal, because in certain ones it takes a larger investment, which we'll go into in a couple of minutes, and less investment. And gain the kind of satisfaction, success that you are after, because ultimately you want to be satisfied with the business model that you put together, as well as you want to be successful in what you're doing. So based upon the business model is going to be the way that you're going to, the way that you're going to be successful and have the satisfaction that you're looking for in order to do business the right way and be effective in what you're doing. First off, you have to make a key choice. How much time do you spend to devote to your business is going to be the key to the success of your business, first and foremost, as well as the motto, if you mentioned a second ago. When you go for a full-time business model, you leave behind whatever you are doing previously to commit yourself completely to your startup, because if you don't, then it's going to fail. If you're going to be full-time in business, then you're going to have to devote your time like what I did for the last 14 years. I devoted all my time, day and night, putting together my business model and putting together the business, so when people see what we're doing, it's complete, and I don't have to worry about it failing, in a sense, because I took the time to put it together. When you make sure this leap, expect to spend more hours working than you ever did before for someone else. And again, because it's your own business, you want to do it right, you want to take your time. I found myself, and I don't want to scare you, but I want to be realistic in what it takes to build a successful business. Little time, little business, more time, more business, all time, all business. And so that means more success. The more time you spend putting together your model up front, the more success, and the time that it takes to do it, just like putting together a business plan. Within your business plan should be your business model of how you're going to operate your business, as far as what type of business what business structure is going to be. And so alternately, you can start up a business part-time with this model, and you can have a ramp-up model to adapt your business to time-consuming obligations you already have, such as your day job, parenting responsibilities, or other activities that would keep you from making your startup your primary focus. So what I'm saying there is basically that don't forsake your family. Don't walk away from your job unless you have the income in a bank account, or you're getting a loan of some kind that pays your salary while you're ramping up. But in most cases, that's not so. So make sure you keep yourself balanced, because you don't want your kids to go lacking or your wife or your spouse or your husband goes lacking when you need to devote your time to it. So you're going to have to balance your time, which we also do a workshop on time management. So that'll be coming up as well. So that way you'll understand how to manage your time more effectively. But on the onset of what we're talking about right now and beginning your business, we want to make sure you understand that keep it balanced, because you would hate for your spouse to hate you or your kids to hate you and be mad at you, and you neglect them and lose your family for the sake of the business. And that's not what it's all about. You want to be balanced and be successful, and you want to have a good time doing it. Part of that success is being part of being a family man as well. When you go for a full-time business model, you leave behind whatever you were doing previously to commit yourself completely to your startup. When you make this leap, expect to spend more time, which is what I said earlier, because it's so important. I did it twice, because I want you to understand how important it is to make sure you devote your time to what you're doing. All right. Once you've determined whether you see yourself as a part-time or full-time entrepreneur, and before we go into these different brands, talk to your spouse and talk to your family to see what they're willing, because maybe depending on the type of business that you're doing, your family will get involved. I found my wife was not an entrepreneur when we first got together. She was a sold out corporate lady, working woman that worked worked in the corporate arena, and she devoted herself to that, and I understood that was our solid paycheck, and so she allowed me to take the time. And we discussed it before we got married that, I'm working on this business model. Someday you'll be able to retire. Someday you'll be able to reap the harvest of what we put together, allowing me this opportunity to put the model together. We can eat spam and eat chicken and eat, turkey, and we can't have steaks all the time. We can't go out to great events all the time, that we have to sacrifice to put the money into the business. And we did cheap date nights, walking in the malls and holding hands. I remember when we first got together, when we first started working on the model, we would go look at houses, big homes, and say, okay, someday, once we get through sacrificing, putting these things together, and we have the finances to do it, we'll get the bigger house on the hill. And so we would go and look at it so we can envision it, took pictures of the house, put it on the walls and so forth. So we envisioned and put together a plan within ourselves. Now, as part of that life plan that we're going to talk about next week, that's really important and pertinent, which is probably, I should have done that before this, but please forgive me, and we'll do it next week to make sure we get that life plan together, because it includes your family as well as your aspirations in life. So anyway, that's why I'm able to do what I do now, is because we had a plan, and I determined that I wanted to be full-time and it to be a full-time business. And because of that, I was able to go forward from what we're from that point forward. So the first one to consider in your list, there's going to be several. We're going to go to each and every one individually. The first one is home-based business. Number two is brick and mortar. Number three is e-commerce. The subcategory of e-commerce is eBay or auction sites. Number four. The next one is franchising. The next one is licensing your product. And the last one is network marketing or multi-level networking. Are the ones we're going to go through today. So let's start with the first one, which is home-based business. Drawing upon technology, you can create a legitimate and competitive business from home. It's part of our culture now. As you'll find that we did in some of our seminars, in our very first seminar, we showed you how many home-based businesses there's millions of home-based businesses. It's the backbone of America, which is a small business, home-based business. Accounting for more than half of all the businesses, as we talked about before, but it's within our PowerPoint today, are home-based businesses. Home-based businesses can be run full-time or part-time or a combination of both, and may or may not be web-based. So you can have a web-based business, or you can have, like for instance, there's several models that have been put together that you buy, either you can be a consultant of some kind, or you can have some type of retail business that you work out of home, but you also go out and show your products in home shows or in expos or business networks and so forth to get outside. But it doesn't have to be web-based, even though you'll find that a lot more are, more and more, because of what we're going to talk about in the next couple of minutes, but it doesn't have to be. The upside of going into having a home-based business is low risk and low startup costs. It allows you to test the entrepreneurial waters without having to spend a whole lot of money on real estate or in staffing. Because again, what happens is the cool part about it is that another upside is that you're able to, which is a part of your low startup costs, as a small business owner, you're able to write off the room. If it's an office or a bedroom, you're able to write off. Hopefully, you could develop a home-based office that you can write off that portion of the home on your taxes. So that's one of the upsides as well. That's not on our small list that we put together. But there's the low startup cost because you're working out of your home. You don't have to pay the rent of a building, nor do you have to pay the monthly of hosting if you have something, depending on the type of home-based business that you have. And when you're first getting started, you really don't need a staff. It's just you. You are the staff, and whatever it is that you're selling or offering within your business, it's just you doing it. Easily scalable. You can make your home-based business as large or small, or big as small, or small as you like to suit your existing commitments. Again, it goes back to such as parenthood or you have a day job. So another cool part and the upside to being a small business owner, home-based business owner, is that you can ramp up and get as large as you want to, or you can stay at home forever if you choose to because of family and friends. There's been great folks that have become millionaires working from home. So based upon your model, again, you can scale it small or stay small, or you can make it large depending on how much time you put into the business and how fast it grows based upon how much time you put into it or the product or service that you're offering. But the cool part about it is that you can expand because, you can, if you say you start in an office and you outgrow, you're selling, we'll just use this for instance, you see this right here. You're selling, little widgets of some kind that you can put your shelving inside your office. If you outgrow your office, you can move into the garage if you have a garage, or even a storage bin that will cost you $30-40 a month. You can put the excess, product in storage, or you can do something called drop ship, which is in another class where you can work with vendors that will actually, you buy from them, you sell the product, and they ship it out for you, so you have no inventory costs, as everything is done through phone or through email or through online online solutions. So that way you're able to not have the inventory if you don't have the space. Which is the next category, outsourcing. A great strategy to keep things simple at home. You can contract with other companies to do your public relations, warehousing, shipping, website management, and even manufacturing. So all those things can be done. So that way you're able to not have to, if you don't have the space, if you're in an apartment where you don't have a garage or you don't have the space and you got a one-bedroom apartment or you don't have the room or space to do it, you can always outsource, which is what we do a lot of, because we found that I used to have a retail store. I had a small chain of retail stores, and in those stores I had a ton of product. And the problem was, after a while, I saw I had all this inventory, and I was stuck in. And what happens is there's something called depreciation. So as soon as you buy it, it depreciates at least 10 to 20%, sometimes more, depending on the industry and the type of product. So when I went to return it, it was a 20% restocking fee off the top, and so I lost $20 by buying it up front. So what I started doing is I started working with vendors that would allow me to either buy on a day-to-day basis, or I was able to have them drop ship it for me, so that way I saved on buying product. So depending on your business model, depending if you're manufacturing your product, then you may not have the opportunity to do that. You're going to have some in stock, because there's even a minimum of products that you have to buy, or widgets you're going to have to purchase in order to get it manufactured. So in some cases, depending on what it is. But outsourcing, again, is a great strategy for you to be able to simplify your business, to get yourself started, get it up and running, and then as your business grows, it's scalable, where you can use other vendors or other businesses or other companies to help you to grow your business. Now let's talk about the downside for a couple of minutes. Shipping activities and consumer traffic at residential properties are restricted by local zoning ordinances. So check your local government agencies for more details if you're able to do a home-based business or not. I know that in Los Angeles that they have become very, very, as well as in the state of California, they are becoming more small home-based business friendly, meaning that they've loosened up their regulations, even for baking. I remember back in the day, you had to go into a commercial kitchen, but you can go get a special license that they put together through the public health department, and you're able to do cooking at home, but you have to have a license in order to do so. So it's changed a little bit, but you need to check your local ordinances to find out, either your city or your state or county, depending on what you're in, to know what you can or can't do. So that could be a problem depending on the type of business. They may not allow, or your neighbors may get upset if you got. I remember one business in particular. I live out about 30 some odd miles outside of Los Angeles, and there's another suburb city called Diamond Bar. And Diamond Bar would be considered a little more upscale. They got some $1 million, multi-million-dollar homes where Snoop Dogg used to live there. A lot of folks have bought big mansions up there. So there's one person who in particular, he did some special manufacturing for Kellogg, and I won't name his name because it doesn't matter. But what he did at home, which is kind of innovative, was because he had the money and the resources to do so, he built a indoor racquetball court that he held his classes for the type of business that he was doing. And he did it. And what he did was he shuttled. There was a local community center down the hill from where he lived, and so in order to keep the neighbors from being upset, what he would do is he would have the people that were part of his business, and he didn't get a bus because he didn't want to make it too obvious, that he would have one of his employees with a SUV or minivan would come up and shuttle people up to his home, and he was holding his classes. It was a leadership type business that he had, motivational speaking business, and what he ended up doing was built the facilities on his own property so he could write that room off. At the same time, he shuttled them up, got to write the vehicle off because he used it for business expenses, for business use, and he was able to do business at his home, and he got by the zoning because he built a racquetball court that had the square footage and the exits that needed in order for him to have have more than 10 people in his house at one time. And so that was one way that he got around the zoning that worked for up until he outgrew it. And he had the money to do it, but he wanted to start small. He had a concept and an idea, and he wanted to ramp up slowly to make sure his model was in place. And then he outgrew his home and bought a facility in Ontario where they're very successful, and they have people fly all over the country to come in for his leadership training. And he works with churches and nonprofits to help people in leadership. So that's one of the things that you could do, and the way he was able to get around it. But you need to, again, check your local governments and make sure your local offices, your local government offices, your city, your county, your state, to see for more details to see if you're able to do any of these things in your home. The next bullet point says working at home can come up with lots of distractions and can infringe on your other domestic commitments. And I can say amen to that one because that happens to me for a couple of reasons. One, for me, it's hard to work at home because of the distractions of the refrigerator, the couch, the TV, the cupboards, with the food in it. So what I found, the problem that I've had was I would always be taking naps, or I'll get back to it. Even like today, I started late today because Mondays I don't go to the office. I work from home, so I wait because my wife doesn't go to work until late, so I can spend some time with her. I don't go in, so I end up working from home. But I get started so late because it's so comfortable being at home. So for me, I have to, even if I have to go to a coffee shop, I have to get outside of the house to work from outside of the house. As well as, my wife doesn't like a whole lot of people, so I had an internet radio station that when the hard times came a while back, I had to move out of the location I was in because the banking industry went upside down. I couldn't get a loan, and so I ended up closing the radio station. So I had to move back home. Well, I couldn't bring people in the house because of that's my home, and it's a home and not a house. And so my wife didn't feel comfortable, as well as I didn't feel comfortable because people coming in for interviews and people trampling all over the house would, just my wife wasn't cool with it, which I understood it, and I wasn't mad at her. So I ended up having to do something else. But just be mindful of your domestic commitments and making sure you take care of home, keep your home clean, and make sure you keep it presentable if you're able to do it. And so that way, your wife or your spouse, I'm a man, so your spouse will not be upset if you do your business at home. Number three, if foot traffic is necessary in your home may not be the desired impression on your customers. Because again, first impressions is everything, even though it's a home-based business. And so you may want to do something called executive suites, where you can rent it by the day, the week, or the month. You get a small office or desk, or get an area that you're able to work out of. They have a conference room or a meeting room that you can meet in. So that may be an alternative, that you do most of your business at home. But when you're meeting with the public, maybe you'll have to go to something like that. Or what I used to do and still do to this day is come and have a cup of coffee. Let's meet over at the coffee shop and have a cup of coffee, and through it, so it's less formal, but it still looks professional. And so I still dress professional, look professional, still can give a professional presentation. And when I was first growing my business as well, and I still do it to this day, a lot of restaurants like Denny's will have where you can rent their space for next to nothing. It's like between either buying a cup of coffee or $30 to $50 to maybe $100 that you're able to use their facilities for larger meetings. So that way you can still work out of home, but you also have some alternatives to be able to, if the traffic is larger, then you have to come up with something alternatives. Just like there's a lot of folks that they store their products at home and do business at home. But I have a friend that he does swap meets, or he does bazaars and fairs and expos and events that he takes his product to. So the people don't come to his home; he comes to the events that he he's a vendor of, and so that way they go there and buy the products there. And so that may be an alternative as well. So the downside again is if depending on the zoning ordinances in your local area, you may be restricted by that in order to do certain things, as well as distractions at home may infringe on your wife or your family or your commit or your husband or spouse or whatever, that may restrict you from doing it. Because if you infringe at home and take over the house, where I remember having a friend that his zeal overtook the house, where he bought tons and tons. There was Tom Bosley, I think it was him. He was doing something called SCM or SMC. I think it was SMC. And he went crazy. He bought tons and tons and tons of product, brought in shelving and put it all over the house. Every room in the house had shelving where he infringed on the house. And so it took over the house. So he stopped doing, his home chores for washing dishes or washing clothes or doing the lawn or whatever, because he got so consumed that he wasn't balanced, as well as forgot about the family and forgot about, the commitment that he made that he was going to be balancing what he was doing. He chose to buy product and took over the house, and the house became the business instead of the house being a home. So don't get caught up in that. Make sure you stay balanced in what you do. Keep yourself restricted to the areas that you have agreed upon with your spouse and your family, so that way you don't overtake it and they feel like they don't have any alternative or freedom in their own home. All right, we're going to get into brick and mortar. This is a great one. This is a brick and mortar is a business with a classic physical location outside of the home. It involves a dedicated facility, whether retail, wholesale, service, or manufacturing. If you look at the picture, it's a little boutique that has some great little products in it. So this is outside of the home versus inside of the home. And this is an illustration of what I talked about a minute ago. A person had this kind of stuff in his house. And so it wasn't cool. The wife wasn't happy with it. The children weren't happy with it, because if product come up missing, dad gets mad because product's missing, or stuff gets broken, dad gets mad, and so forth. So that's the time to move and get yourself what is called a brick and mortar retail, wholesale, service, or manufacturing business. I know a lot of times that I had a friend that started a repair business out of his home, repairing cars, and it became a problem because he had cars all parked all over the yard. Neighbors got upset, so he ended up having to move to a physical location that he was able to expand his business and not mess up the yard because the grass was dying because of oil, and he had parts all over the yard, and engines all over the yard, and so forth. And so it made it an eyesore. So complaints from the city as well as complaints from the neighbors, because cities want to keep the houses looking good. Unless you're in a rural area where you got big yards that you can do it great. But if you're in the inner city somewhere or in the suburbs, it's not a good thing to do. So a brick and mortar is for those folks that have a high that have the limitations of not being able to do it at home. So you have to go get a physical facility, even if it's an office building, where you're renting office space. That should be included in it as well, which is part of the service, as far as on our bullet point. The upside of a brick and mortar is gives you an opportunity to work face to face with people and become more involved in your community as well, because now you're sowing the seed into your community, renting space from somebody else, which, unless you purchase it, that's a whole different story. But you're able to now invite people to your place of business versus going to somewhere else, like what I talked about earlier. A physical location may attract walk-in traffic, supplement traffic to gain through marketing efforts, depending on your type of business. And that's going to be key, because if you can't have the foot traffic, and a lot of times people want to see what you have, and so they want to go to a physical location or see the products and services that you offer. So the upside would be having a physical location will give you more business, because people can just walk in anytime, depending on the type of business. Or if it's by appointment only, they still see a physical place. It also gives you credibility. Sometimes, even though home-based businesses are credible, but to some people, they consider that shiny or small time, and they want to deal with somebody that they can see. So depending on your model and the customer base, your target market that you're going after, may be another reason why you want to go into having your own brick and mortar building. A third point today in the upside is gives you a dedicated space to work each day and become mentally and physically immersed in running your business. And again, I gave you what I went through when I was working from home, and the challenges that I have. So if you have a dedicated space, then it motivates you to get up every day, mentally and physically, getting up saying, I'm going to work, even though it's your own business, but you're going somewhere. So you feel like, for some people, it's they need that type of thing. Like myself, I can't when I tried working from home, I got less work done. But it wasn't until, even when I couldn't afford to get a retail business, Denny's and Starbucks were my locations of choice that I would go to. Starbucks was a great place because it was more upscale, and depending who I was meeting, I would go there. And day to day, writing manuals and books and doing work, I would go to Denny's because they're open 24 hours. So depending when I got an idea, I can go there anytime of day or night with a cup of coffee and a big tip. I was able to work there as long as I want. And the funny thing about it is, just to let you know, even in that way, I was able to get more business, because when I was in Denny's, if I'm there long enough, the managers will come up and say, hey, what do you do? The servers you get to know. So I've gotten business through the servers. I've gotten business through the managers, as well as customers, because unfortunately, when you're sitting in a restaurant like that, you're not isolated, so you get to hear people's conversations, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on the conversation. But it may be to your advantage, like it has been for mine, where I've been able to get business. I have some hosting people, as well as doing some websites, as well as doing a business plan, and a host of other things that I've been able to do because of being outside of my home and being exposed to the world, so that way folks can find me easier, as well as I can canvas a little bit better by doing it. So I was a little bit more, I'm more efficient by being outside of the house, but I'm not like everybody else. Certain people can do it. And certain things I can do, like today, I'm doing it from home. I have a home office that I work out of. So today, as I said earlier, Mondays I stay home. Today's a Monday for those that just in case you didn't know. But the tape-wise, it doesn't matter because I'm taping this and recording it. But anyway, but I'm able to work from home, and I'm forcing myself to do it because of just taking advantage of home and having a home-based business instead of going out all the time. So the upside, again, is you're able to meet with people face-to-face, and you're able to get more involved in your community, like I just shared. A physical location also is more attractive and may be more attractive based upon your target market. And the third, a dedicated space each day will get you mentally and physically immersed in running your business. The downside, higher risk and startup costs is always huge. Startup costs could be setting up your location, could be the furniture that you need, the lease and purchasing costs, your advertising and marketing to do so, hiring employees, depending on the type of business, and so forth. So you have a higher startup cost and higher risk. I remember I had a mobile DJ service, and when I had a mentor that when I first got into doing retail, I had a mentor that told me I need to get a brick and mortar building, that I have product knowledge because I knew music, and he said, why don't I start selling records? And so I got into the record business. I think I shared earlier, I had a small chain of 3 stores at one time, and my first location was right next to a swap meet. And I thought it was safe because it was on the mall and everybody knew me. And the risk was, I thought the low risk because I didn't figure nobody would try to break in. And so I didn't put up bars or alarm system because, folks were buying from me and so forth and coming to my parties and events and so forth. Guess what happened? It wasn't even a full week of being in business that one night, it was a Thursday night, never forget, because weekends were really busy for our type of business at the time. And so on a Thursday night, someone broke in and took the cash register, took my records, took my the music player that played the music on, almost gutted me, and took a lot of my records and took my CD. Actually it was before CDs were out, and took my cassettes and took my records and didn't have insurance at the time, couldn't afford it at the time because I was just getting started. And so the risk was higher because I end up not securing it because not having all the money to do it the right way, because the startup cost a little bit more than I had at the time. I had more money in product than I did in actually securing, making sure the business was secure, having either an alarm system or putting up bars. I ended up having to put in bars and an alarm system, and the rest is history. But it was a valuable lesson. That was one of the downsides of going into a brick and mortar business without counting up the cost to see if I was able to afford to do it at the time. Number 2, requires a full-time commitment up front to get the facility ready for business. And I've seen people where they did it part-time because they had a part-time job, but it took them almost 6 months to get the business up and running, just to get it for the paint, the carpet, getting all the fixtures in place and so forth. That because they had a full-time job and they're doing it part-time, they're spending all their money in rent to get it up and running because they didn't want to hire a company to go in and set it up for them. They want to do it themselves. So it costs them more money in the long run because of being committed to something else and not being able to put full-time commitment into up front to get the facility ready. And then either putting in a staff member, hiring staff and so forth in order to do it. So the downside of having a brick and mortar is going to be getting it set up, and it's going to take a full-time commitment. Unless you have the budget to do so, then disregard it. Then that's not a downside; it's an upside because you already have counted up the cost. You're able to build it. You're able to staff it. You're able to set it up at that time, and so you're able to do it even if at a part-time basis. You can hire a consultant to set your business up for you, or if you have the time to do it and it takes a long time to do it, then it's okay too. Because basically it's your business and your business model. If your concept is retail oriented, you must acquire inventory to merchandise your store. Because I'm going to use this example. At one of the Denny's that I frequent, there's a lady just opened up a business, and it's a cupcake business. And so she spent all her money, on the back end of the business of all the baking equipment that's needed to do the baking. And then her displays look really, really thin. And so when people come in, there was, they didn't have, enough product to make it look full. So it looked like they were just beginning, or they didn't even look like they were open, or they were so not together that they lost business because of it. So if you're doing a retail type of business, make sure it's fully stocked. Like the very first picture I was showing the brick and mortar, it was fully stocked and looked really neat and really nice and really clean, and not gaudy and shoddy, but professional, so that when people come in, it's been staged to look professional, staged that you want to sell, and that people can find the product easy, and it looks like you have enough money to do business, even if you don't, make it look so. So that way you don't lose by comparison. Let's go over the downside. Oh, so we already know the downside. Next is e-commerce, and this is where the world has exploded, and more small home-based businesses have evolved because of that. In this model, you don't have foot traffic in your business or your home. It's all the traffic is based upon sending them to a website. You sell your product through your website to consumers or to other businesses, B2B or B2C is what that stands for. And so in this model, it's a great model. More folks have gotten into business than ever before because of even having home-based business. If you can't have the foot traffic, and even if you can't have foot traffic, and even if you got a brick-and-mortar business, you should have a e-commerce connected with it based upon the product that you're selling, because people now are looking for it online. If you're in Kentucky, you can sell in Los Angeles. Even though you're in Kentucky, you can still sell product because they can buy it online. Even if you have excuse me for being tongue-tied. Let me slow down. Even if you are doing some type of catalog business, that you still should have your catalog online for people to browse in their leisure, and they can order right then and there, because it's also something called impulse buying, and so they'll buy right then and there versus a catalog where, yeah, they got a catalog, they see it, then they got to call the 800 number, or a number to place the order, to give the credit card information, and so forth, versus seeing it online. They can see that your site's protected. They see that you're credible based upon some things that we'll talk about in that course, website course. But for right now, so that you can show that it's a secure site, that you can be able to sell the merchandise, and that you have a great return policy and so forth, that you can sell a lot of product having a e-commerce business. So let's do the upside. Let me get a drink of water. Excuse me 1 second. As with home-based businesses, this is a low-risk, lower-cost business to start up. You don't necessarily need lots of personnel or inventory or even a facility. You can choose to work this part-time or full-time or part-time. Easily scalable. You can make your e-commerce business as big or small as you like it to be, suiting on your commitments, existing commitments, such as parenthood again and your day job. So the cool part about having, and let me finish the last one and I'll back up. You can tap into a national or even global customer base through the internet as well to market and promote your business and get general global sales, which is what hopefully you want to do. So anyway, let me back up to you can make it as small as large based upon your commitments. The cool part about the internet and having an e-commerce business is that you don't have to man it every hour of the day. You can do it once a day. You can do it once a week, depending on the type of business model you can have. You can check it at midnight. You can check it at 6 o'clock in the morning. You can check it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to see what sales you have. The cool part about it is, depending on the e-commerce system, it'll send you an email to your smartphone or to your phone to let you know that you got a sale. To check your site, your back end of your site to see what they've sold, to get that ready for shipping and delivery. Another part about e-commerce, which we'll get into a little bit later on, is the drop shipping, which I talked about a little bit earlier. There's a lot of companies now that like for instance ourselves, we have a website called bigfatsavings.com, and bigfatsavings.com is our retail business where we have tons of product and services that a person can go in and start themselves an e-commerce business today and sell products and services and make a commission on the products and services. And if they want to go to the next level, they can buy wholesale from us and then market up retail, but they got to buy the product up front for those folks who want to do a home-based business or do a retail type business. And so we've given them the option. So that's an option for you as well, that you can do an e-commerce business and not have product of your own and sell other people's products and make the money by folks going to the website and promoting the website. So you can go national, global, international. You can grow the business as big or small as you want to. And this is where a lot of folks have gone into business and become multimillionaires, or generate a second income working part-time with it. And the next part you'll see, which we'll go into in a couple of minutes, which is eBay, which is even powerful as well. The downside is, as with a brick and mortar store, shipping, inventory management, and credit card processing can all become headaches if you don't do them right, particularly if you are a one-person show. Over 8 million people access, it's a little bit more than that since I did this slide. Over 8 billion people access the internet globally. It's actually over a billion now. But it's a challenge to get traffic to your site and B, convert them into customers confident enough to make a purchase. And so there's the customer base is there, and building up credibility is key to the success of e-commerce business. And there's some ways of doing that through the way you market and promote by blogging and some other things that you do, and joining certain associations that will give you the credibility, as well as some HTTPS, which is a secure website, and as well as getting certain things that you get accredited through different agencies to show that you are a company that's credible enough to be able to buy from. And so the downside again is that with a brick and mortar, just like a brick and mortar, if you're a one-man show, then the work is going to be harder anyway because it's a one-man show. So it's the same thing as a brick and mortar. The other upside is that you don't have the rent to pay as a brick and mortar, but you still have the same thing as in the e-commerce side as any retail brick and mortar store. Now let's get into eBay, and that's known as the auction site. And eBay is the first and the largest in the world. It's a subcategory of e-commerce, but one big enough to consider on its own. eBay can serve as a location for your online store and allow you to tap into its huge marketplace. And what they've done is they set it up as a place for folks. It started off as folks finding stuff in the garage, what's in your house, what's in your stuff that you're not using anymore, and then you put it into on their site, and people all over what your discard is somebody's reward or treasure, and so people are buying it based upon that, and so buying it because just like you go to a auction house or go to a flea market or some type of antique store or something like that. So folks are buying stuff online like that, and so if you look at the guide shows retailer. It shows you. Ooh, excuse me. You are the one. You list your items on eBay, and then it's an auction site, so it goes to the highest bidder. The bidder wins. Then what happens is they've got a e-commerce, not e-commerce. They have a solution for you to be able, a payment solution that you will be able to pay for it through PayPal, and then what happened is that it will go to you. Then you would send it to your drop shipper or wholesaler, and then the wholesaler drop shipper will send it out to the buyer for you, or you do it yourself, whichever your model is set up to do. So it's a great way and an awesome way people have been able to make a part-time or full-time living utilizing eBay or auction sites as a whole. There's tons of auction sites out there. We even have one on BizHelp 101 that you're able to put. We don't, it's not as big, nowhere close to eBay, of course, but you're able to put products and services up there, products up there that you want to get rid of and sell that, as well as new products that you can sell both through the auction site as well as through bigfatsavings.com. So let's go through the ups and downs of eBay or auction sites. The upside is low startup cost, low risk, then starting an independent e-commerce site, as there are many tools to help you that eBay puts together for you to be able to do business and get it off the ground, such as PayPal, which is accept your payments. It's also eBay is a ready-made marketplace with millions of folks that are going in looking for products and services every day. They have great templates that are already set up to make it look corporate and professional, and it has some marketing tools and market research tools for you to market and find your target market to do business in. Avoid having to build website traffic from scratch, because they already have a huge following, so you're able worldwide, so you're able to tap into the existing database that they have. I have a friend that, oh man, I have a friend that he had the same thing. He was in retail business and had a huge music store, and he's probably one of the largest record, as in vinyl collectors in the world. And what he did was when he started at eBay, well, long before I did. I never really got into eBay because I just didn't get it, and I was working on a different. I mean, I got it, but it was just I was working on my own model and own system. So I didn't get into eBay. I understood it and knew all about it, and we have our own version of it. But he was able to capitalize in his store because as retail businesses, especially in record sales, dwindled and folks were starting to go online, he took advantage of not having to market and promote his store by putting his product online and putting it in on eBay, and he was able to sell more merchandise online than he was in the store. And so he owned the property, and what he ended up doing was giving a service package to all his employees, closing the store, and using the store for storage to ship the products outside of the store because it cost him less money to do that than for him to have a retail store. The downside of eBay is as a brick and mortar store, shipping, inventory management, and credit card processing can become a headache, just like the other ones before. Particularly as a one-person show. Even with the guaranteed traffic that eBay offers, you still face stiff competition with existing sellers all over the world who are already staked their claim and built up strong feedback ratings and a customer base. Because what happens is on eBay is that there's something called feedback ratings, and the higher your rating is by the feedback from the customers that bought from you, the higher you rate in eBay, and the faster you come up in the search as far as the product or service that you're offering. And so, because of that, the longer you've been on eBay, the higher your rating is going to be because the more products that you sold. If you've done righteous business, then people keep coming back to you. The higher your rating is going to be, the more people are going to have, the more visibility. But starting off, you're going to be rated really low because you have no ratings whatsoever. So you got to build it. So that's one of the the upsides is that you can do that, and the downside is as that you got to build the customer base just like you would with any other e-commerce. And you got more competition globally, not just because eBay is eBay in Dubai as well as in Japan and China. No, not China, but other countries. People are able to tune in as well to be able to sell their products as well. Because I bought for customers. I've bought certain products that I got cheaper from them and shipped it one piece over versus having to buy a bunch. I was able to buy certain stuff from Taiwan or China at a cheaper price because it was a onesie thing, and they had a process to ship to the United States, which it took a week, but I was able to save hundreds of dollars on buying the product that I bought. But it was all on eBay, so that could be a downside for you. Next. Franchising, and that's a big one. And when you choose a franchise model, you use someone else's proven business concept as your entrepreneurial roadmap. Typically, you pay a upfront fee, and you also share a portion of the revenue over time to that person that you are franchising from. And so if you look over here on the right side, you look at some of the folks that are franchise companies, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and so forth. And what happens is the basic concept of the model is that there's a franchise headquarters where you buy, where they house the products. Then you have your where you buy your products from and you buy your franchise from. And then underneath that, you become a franchise owner or operator. And then you have the end user. So what happens is well, let's go into it and I'll go back. I'll come back. I'm getting ahead of myself. The upside is a lower risk than operating an independent brick and mortar business because franchising proves you with a streamlined process to start or system to start your business, as well as the support for marketing, business plan samples and estimates, assistance with real estate issues, and staff training. Number two, provide you with a recognized, established brand to attract customers more quickly, to illustrate a lower risk inherent in a franchise. Success rates for franchises are higher than non-franchise businesses. So meaning that with a franchise, I have a friend that owns 14 McDonald's, and he's a multimillionaire selling burgers. And because of the success rate of the franchise, he's able to capitalize on it and just built upon it from there. It was funny because he tried opening up his own non-franchise business, but because of um, McDonald's having a system put together, he didn't have a system, and so he didn't do it. He didn't, the target market is done for him, the business plan is done for him. Everything for as a franchisee, everything is done for you. All you need to do is, and even in certain instances, a location is already chosen for you. So all you have to do from that is just show up, get the training on the system, and then work the system. That's the most powerful part about franchising is that you have to have no product knowledge at first. They'll train you, they'll staff you, they'll give you the business plan, they'll give you the marketing support, they'll handle the business. Everything you do, you just come in and operate the business on a day-to-day basis, and you generate cash flow and make a living by utilizing somebody else's franchise. So the downside, let's go through that real quick and then I'll back up. All right. The downside, you got to be able to pay upfront the franchising fee. So like McDonald's is $1 million or a little over $1 million. So you figure that, but again, you become a multi-millionaire. You're already a millionaire with it. But there's other franchises that cost a whole lot less. But I'm just showing you McDonald's because I know the startup cost for them. Franchise guidelines can restrict and limit your ability to create your business, and that's a big one because you have to work their system. You have to sign on the dotted line that you will not deviate from the system. I have a friend, not a friend, but as I shared with you earlier, I frequent Denny's, and the two Denny's I go to, one opened up long before there was this regional mall that opened up, and they saw the future growth in the area, so Denny's put it there. The franchisee took it there because they saw the master plan, and they agreed that they were going to move there. It wasn't off for some reason. Most of your Denny's you'll find off the freeway or in busy intersections, but this one wasn't. So they're not allowed to do any other advertising. Denny's does the marketing for them, the advertising for them. They can do some in-house stuff, but this business is dying, and they're paying the franchise, the franchise fees and paying the mortgage and rent on the building and all the employees and all the staffing that they got to do. And it's costing them a fortune to do it, and they're not making enough money to support themselves, and so they've had to take out loans to sustain themselves. They're even thinking about changing the name and going independent because in that target market, in that area where they are, they need different type of advertising that's specific to that area, and they're not able to do so. So because of that, it hinders them and it limits them on being able to market and promote their business. And what they've had to do is, for instance, which kind of works, but it doesn't work, they've offered a discount between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m., 50% off your check. So whatever you buy between 2 and 5 or 2 and 6, you're able to get a 50% discount, and they're using word of mouth as a way of doing it. So that limits you on how you're able to market and promote your business. And number 3, your franchise upside is somewhat limited because you must pay your franchisor a cut of the profits, anywhere between 5 and 20%, depending on the franchise agreement. You got to pay them not of the net, but of the gross. So off the top, because they put together a system, because they've helped with the market, put together a marketing plan, because they've done all the hard work for you, you're paying them a franchising fee of whatever between 5% or 20%, up to 20% of your gross sales in order to keep the franchise or to have the franchise. Not to mention that because of its gross, that means rent, before you pay your employees, before you pay taxes, before you pay anything, you must pay your franchisor. So that could hurt you in the long run. Like McDonald's is not so bad because again, it's a proven system. Not to mention that McDonald's is in the real estate business, and so you own the real estate. So that's a cool part about it. So you got real estate that you're getting equity in as well. But again, the downside is you're paying a gross receipt on your gross financial franchisor fee because of being a part of that franchise. So, but if you don't want to figure out a system and you want an easy setup, then the way to go is having a franchise. But you have to have the finances in order to do so. You can also license your products, and that's another one. If you're working a day-to-day job and you don't want to start a business, you can still take advantage of your great product idea by licensing the product to another company that is the entire that has the entire infrastructure to place their intellectual property, to be able to manufacture it, to be able to market it and promote it and sell the product for you, and they pay you what is called a royalty. And it's funny because, and before I get into the positive and negatives, one of your homework assignments is a TV show on the ABC network. It's called Shark Tank. And there's a lady, and I can't think of her name right now. She is a queen of licensing. She has tons of patents, and she licenses people's ideas, their intellectual property, and she partners with them, takes it, and she gets to manufacture because she's a part of QVC, and she's a big shot with QVC, and so she's able to get products sold through QVC, so that way she finds a great product, she licenses with a person, she does all the work, gives that person a licensing fee, and everybody wins. And so if you have a day job and you have just an idea for a widget of some kind, licensing might be the way to go. So you can get somebody else that they take on, just like in football, for instance, football players don't have the time to, as well as recording artists, don't have the time to do merchandising. So what they do is they license their image and license their name to some company that's going to manufacture merchandise for them, and they pay them a royalty fee based upon whatever's negotiated in order to manufacture the product and services. And all they do is get a check. They don't have to worry about the headaches. They're full-time employees of whatever football team that they're a part of, so they don't have the time to work on, or the expertise in most cases, to work on putting together their own product line for them to sell. Same thing with recording artists. They're too busy doing it, so they license. So someone will license their name and license their intellectual property and sell it like we just showed you just now. So that might be a great option depending on your time restraint. This may be a great option for you. The positive or the upside is low risk because you can work on your product part-time. And that means that whatever your intellectual property is, once you've trademarked it, once you've copywritten it, once you've protected it, then all you'd have to do is just pass it on to somebody else. So there's low risk for you. Somebody else takes all the risk, so that's an upside, and just sends you a monthly or quarterly or yearly check based upon the sales and profit of the company, based upon whatever your agreement is for your licensing. It's a great upside for those people that have a widget but don't have the finances in order to do it, or even the expertise to run it. Lower cost because your main expertise and experience in product and production is a prototype and testing the product to make sure it's attractive to potential licensors or licensees, rather than the cost of initial setting up the entire business to make it, market it, and to sell the product. So the cool part is that the main thing you have to do is put together your prototype and test it to make sure it works, and get all the write-ups that you can to make it as attractive as possible for potential licensees to take on your project and take it to the marketplace for you, to manufacture it and take it to the marketplace for you. It also gives you the freedom to move on to the next big idea. So if you are an inventor of some kind, this is a great thing for you. You don't have to worry about trying to manufacture it. Just get it to prototype stage, get it to the drawings. We got mechanical drawings. Get it to where you protected it by your trademark and patent, and then give the idea to somebody else. Let them make money with you. Get the royalties as long as they're manufacturing the product. As long as the contract is, you can keep. You can license the product for X amount of years or X amount of months or forever, based upon the company and the contract that you put together. If you do successful license your product, you could receive royalties long after your product stops working. And that's the cool part about it, is certain things will depending on what it is, like music, for instance. Music, you get royalties from your music, because what happens is if you produce your music, then you get the royalties for it. The song could be used in movies, could be used in commercials, could be used on jingles for somebody else. You get paid long after you manufacture the song, for instance. So, licensing your song in movies and your products in different arenas will get you paid forever, depending on what it is, or a long time after your product is dead. The downside Finding the right licensee takes tenacity and determination and can take a long time. Don't quit your day job while you're looking for it. Because again, depending on the product or the service the product that you are endeavoring to produce is depending on who you go to. So you got to do the research up front as you're putting it together to make sure you can find the right licensees in the industry that you're producing the widget. Unless your product gets sold in a significant enough volume by the company to who licensed it, the amount of royalties you receive can be low and or non-existent because again, depending on the contract is going to be your license is based upon the profit, not the gross. But depending on who your person is who does negotiations for you, you can get a deal where it's on the gross versus the net. But that's a hard one because the other person is taking the larger investment because they're going to be manufacturing thousands or millions depending on the product that you put together. It's extremely difficult to get through the door of big companies to start a negotiation. And that's why you try to find, that's why the company that, if you watch, one of the outlets you can go to just right off the top is if you watch Shark Tank, like I talked about earlier, if you can get on that show, they two of the five people on the show, they get into licensing, and that's what their big their forte is. And so if you get on the show, then you get the exposure. Then people end up even if they don't do it. The cool part about it is that you get enough exposure that people will call in. Companies will call in and say, "Hey, I want to license your product, or I want to invest in your product." You got angel investors, which we'll talk about, venture capitalists, which we'll talk about in another class. But they'll invest in your product as well, based upon the exposure and the type of product that you're offering. That's 3% of all patent ideas actually make it to the marketplace. So just know that up front, that 97% don't make it. And so you might have to go on, after a while, you may end up going to have to get some finances, which we talk about in another class, get the finances to actually go ahead and do the manufacturing and sales. Because just like if you watch that, again, I use that show, Shark Tank, as a perfect example because the first thing they ask is, how many sales did you have? And so very rarely they'll do startup classes. What they'll do is they want to do business with folks that have sold thousands and thousands of dollars in product sales, so that way they see that they're not taking the larger risk. That is a lesser risk because you've already made the larger investment. You just need marketing promotion, or you may need distribution, or you may need cheaper manufacturing that they can offer, or the sales team that they offer that you don't have. So that's why they'll go ahead and license it from you because they have a way to take it to that next level. So remember that you have to have tenacity because in this part of licensing, the percentage is greater for not getting licensed than they do get licensed. So be mindful of that. The upside is that if you don't have the finances and you are an inventor, then it's a great way, depending on your invention, to get into the marketplace for just a small investment of your time, putting together the widget in order for you to sell and protect your intellectual property while you do so. All right, the next one is multi-level marketing, or better known as network marketing. Multi-level marketing, or MLM for short, is a marketing and distribution structure. People at the top sell to those below them, who in turn sell those below them. The higher up you are in the structure, the more money you can make. The challenge with MLM businesses is that people at the top frequently are the winners, and the vast majority of people at the bottom end up spending their money and time involved and end up losing whatever they put in. If you're determined to choose a business with a MLM model, be sure to check with at least a handful of other people who've entered into that business, and to see who is identified in your own separate from MLM promoter refers to you. And what I'm trying to say there is basically check your references. because again, find out, if you look on the right, you'll see Prime America, Avon, Amway, Mary Kay, and so on, Tupperware, and so on and so forth. Those companies are all network marketing companies, and you want to find some people that are in the business that have, you don't want to see the top earners, because the top earners have been in the business for a long time, and that motivation to see what they're doing. If you're going into a multi-level marketing company to sell, or if you want to start one, make sure you have the products and services that people are interested in. Don't make it driven on membership, make it driven on the product, because the problem is going to be like all these other companies, is that the fall off is greater because is membership motivated versus buying great products. Amway is probably one of the greatest ones that I use as an example, is because when they first started, people were buying their home care products like their soaps and house cleaning products, and so people that so they sold the product, and people got into Amway because how would you like to? And they were one of the first ones to do it too. So, but the key to their success had been that they had products that were usable, that housewives were using at the time, that wanted to, and at the same time earn extra money. So they were using products themselves, and by the time, people are always trying to find the best way and most cost-effective way to buy products for home and whatever. So word of mouth spread, and so that's how they built their company. So for you, based upon what you're trying to do, you can look at these companies. There's tons of companies out there that offer network marketing as far as a multi-level marketing business structure. But if you want to start your own as well, you can also see us. We can help you set up your own. If you don't know how, as far as putting together comp plan and promotional material and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot more time consuming in putting that together, as well as putting together a product, because that's the sales model, is where you got to marketing. But it's doable, and you can make money in it. There's something also called affiliate marketing, which I should have put there as well. Affiliate marketing is similar to multi-level marketing. The percentages are smaller, the buy-in is less, and a lot of companies are doing it and offering affiliate because if you're doing a multi-level, there's some associations and some fees and things you got to pay and attorneys that you got to have and be in compliance. That's different than you would as an affiliate marketing. So you can do an affiliate marketing business where you can offer a commission versus having a sales staff. And that's what the power of network marketing as a whole is, that instead of hiring a sales staff, people are paying, just like franchises, paying a fee to sell the product and services for you. It's leveraging. That's what Robert Kiyosaki talks about: leveraging people, leveraging your resources. And so by leveraging your resources, people are selling products and services for you, and they're making money based upon the products and services that you're offering. You're partnering together and not paying them to play, so to speak, but you're paying, they're paying you to sell your products for you, so you get your money up front for the product. So you sold the product up front, and then they go out and sell the product. So that way, again, that limits your liability, because someone else is buying the products, and you're going to manufacture products based upon the sales of the people that are part of your network marketing company. So as an affiliate marketing company, you can offer the, again, based upon you can only go down 5 levels and 5 across, because of the way the structure is set up for the direct sales marketing industry. With network marketing, you can go infinity based upon the business structure and based upon going through and getting the permits to do as a network marketing company. Both are powerful. Let's go through the pros and the cons, or the upsides and downsides. Typically, limited startup costs, a membership or initial inventory commitment. If you're going to go in as a business to sell someone else's products, is a viable home-based business, so you can do it at home or online. You are provided prepackaged tools, products, and sales techniques to sell the product, so that you don't have to develop the strategy. Just like franchises, you're basically taking a franchise on a smaller scale and getting in for a membership or initial inventory, and you're using their name and using their brand in order to sell the product or services. So that's a great upstart. Plus, they do all the thinking for you. All you do is learn the system and work the system just like a franchise would, but without the commitment that a franchise takes. Now, the downside is most people lose money in MLM activities because they can't sell the product as effectively as those that they thought they could. Credibility can become an issue, especially if you start threatening friends, treating friends like their customers. And so those are the downsides, as well as, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest downside is the fall off in network marketing is that most network marketing companies are membership driven versus product driven. And because it's membership driven, the fallout is because of what is just said in the first bullet point is most people lose money in MLMs because they can't sell the product effectively, because most of us get into it because of the hype. There's a great euphoria that happens when people get together, just like at football games. People are shouting. Folks can get into fights and stuff because they get such roused up. So at football games, but with MLM, they create the same type of euphoria that you get in there, and the excitement of seeing people make money and the opportunity of making money overshadows the product itself. And a lot of times the product is just okay. You can get it somewhere cheaper or different or whatever. And it's all about the memberships. And so what happens is you end up alienating your friends and family because that's your hot market or your warm market, what it's called. And your hot market or warm market is your friends and family to start with. And you try to make them customers to get. So initially you get yourself started. But the problem is, again, based upon the product or service that are being offered, it may not be that good. Or that may not be, either the product doesn't work, so you lose credibility with your family and friends because your friends get into it and they're not making money, and so they're mad at you because you brought them into the business opportunity and they're not making money. So together you're not making money. So they drop out first. So you got to find somebody to replace them. So that's the challenge. So if you do get in one, find one that's product driven, that has a great product. And going back to, because you're starting your own business, make sure it's something that you're passionate in. Make sure it's something that you love. Make sure it's something that you'll devote your time into, that you can see yourself using yourself, even if nobody else buys it. See that as something that you can do yourself. So in network marketing, it has a great opportunity because it is leveraging other people to help you sell your product or service. But the downside, again, is based upon the product or service that you're offering or they're offering for you to sell. All right. I think that's it for today. I just released 2 manuals. One is Biz Startup 101. It's the steps to starting your new business. What I'm doing now, the classes that I'm offering right now, is an abbreviated course of this manual. The manual is a full course of how to start your business, start and manage your new business. And then for those who have already started, once you started your business, I wrote one with a little cute title. I just started my business. Now what? Learn how to advertise, market, and promote, and brand your business. And this manual goes through from traditional marketing to guerrilla marketing to internet marketing, how to cross promote and what is cross promotion, all the various aspects of the latest trends in marketing, 21st century techniques and ideas that you can use in order to market and sell your business. You can go to bigfatsavings.com and purchase the book there. That's our retail site. It's big, you can see it at the bottom of the manual, the bottom of the slide. And we thank you. And next week we'll be going into the course of life planning, because it's important that not just a business plan, but also have a life plan, goal setting for your life as well, so that way you know if you have the temperament and your family has the temperament and your long range goals for you going into business. My name is Dr. Brian Cochran with Biz Help 101. We'll see you next week.